The first time Jordan kissed me, I tasted whiskey and secrets. It was a humid August night in Brooklyn, the kind where the air clings to your skin like a lie you want to believe. I was 26, and he was the stranger who'd just spilled my coffee at a crowded cafe, his apology turning into a grin that felt like a dare. His name was Jordan Hayes, a 28-year-old photographer with a knack for capturing moments that looked honest but weren't. I'm Eli Navarro, a barista with dreams bigger than my paycheck, trying to piece together a life in a city that chews up hope. That night, he offered to buy me another coffee, and I let him. Not because I needed the drink, but because his eye storm gray and sharp promised something I hadn't felt in years: possibility. We talked until the cafe closed. About art, about grief, about the way New York makes you feel like you're running out of time. He told me about his childhood in Seattle, how he'd left after his dad kicked him out for being gay. I told him about losing my mom to cancer, how I'd moved here to escape the quiet of my small Jersey town. By the time we parted, his number was in my phone, and I was already half in love with the idea of him. The next few weeks were a blur of late-night texts and stolen moments. Jordan had a way of making everything feel urgent, like every touch was a confession. We'd meet at dive bars in Williamsburg or one of the High Line, his camera always clicking, capturing me in ways that made me feel seen. But there was a shadow in his gaze, a hesitation I chalked up to his past. I didn't ask too many questions. I wanted to believe in us. 3 months in, he moved into my tiny Bushwick apartment. It was too fast, but I didn't care. He'd cook breakfast, burnt toast, and perfect eggs, and we'd laugh about nothing. The kind of laughter that fills the cracks in your heart. He'd leave post-it notes on my mirror: "You're my favorite mistake." I'd pretend not to notice how he'd tense when I said, "I love you." How he'd change the subject when I asked about his photography gigs. I told myself it was just his walls, built from years of hurt. I could wait. But the lies started small, like pebbles in a stream. He'd say he was at a shoot, but his camera bag would be untouched by the door. He'd get calls at 2 a.m. and step outside, his voice low and clipped. I found a receipt once, for a bar in Manhattan he'd never mentioned. Dated a night he'd said he was working late. I didn't confront him. I was too afraid of what I'd lose if I did. By our first anniversary, I was an expert at pretending. I'd smile when he came home late, kiss him when he smelled like someone else's cologne. I told myself it was love, that I was giving him space to heal. But every lie I swallowed made me smaller, until I barely recognized the man staring back in the mirror. Jordan. Thuff was a master. He'd hold me after a fight, whisper apologies that sounded like poetry, and I'd fall into them every time. He'd take me to Coney Island, where we'd ride the Ferris wheel, his hand in mine, and for a moment, I'd believe we were real. But the truth was a current beneath it all, pulling us towards something neither of us could outrun. One night, I found a photo on his laptop, a man I didn't know, laughing with Jordan at a place I'd never been. The timestamp was recent. Too recent. My heart cracked, but I closed the laptop and said nothing. I wasn't ready to let go. Not yet. The second year, the lies grew heavier, like stones piling up in my chest. Jordan's photography gigs took him away for days, sometimes weeks. He'd come back with stories of shoots in upstate New York or Philly, but his camera's memory card was always suspiciously empty. I'd ask, casually, and he'd deflect with a kiss or a joke, his charm a shield I couldn't pierce. I started noticing patterns. His phone was always locked now, and he'd angle it away when he typed. He'd get jumpy when I mentioned meeting his friends, saying they were private or busy. Once, a guy named Marcus texted him while we were watching a movie, and Jordan's face went pale. "Wrong number," he muttered, but I saw the way his fingers trembled as he deleted the message. I wasn't innocent either. I lied to myself every day, pretending I didn't see the cracks. I'd tell my coworker, Lena, that Jordan was just complicated, that we were working through things. She'd raise an eyebrow, but say nothing. her silence louder than any warning. I didn't want to hear it. I wanted the Jordan who'd dance with me in our kitchen, who'd leave voicemails just to say he missed me. But the doubts were relentless. One night, I followed him. I'm not proud of it, but desperation makes you do ugly things. He'd said he was meeting a client in the East Village, but I found him at a dimly lit bar, laughing with a man whose hand rested too long on his arm. I stood outside, rain soaking my jacket, watching through the window. They looked like us. Once. I went home before he saw me, my heart a tangled mess of betrayal and shame. I confronted him that night, my voice shaking. Who was he? Jordan. He didn't flinch, just looked at me with those storm gray eyes and said, "A friend. You're paranoid, Eli." He pulled me into his arms, and I let him, because the alternative facing the truth was too much. I pretended to believe him, but the lie tasted bitter now. We kept going, a fragile dance of denial. He'd bring me coffee from my favorite shop, leave it on the counter with a heart drawn on the cup. I'd cook him dinner, pretending the silences between us were comfortable. But every touch felt like a transaction. Every, "I love you," a script we both knew by heart. Then came the crash. It was a Tuesday in October, the kind of crisp day that makes New York feel alive. Jordan was driving us to a gallery opening in Chelsea, his first big break. He'd said, I was proud, despite everything, because I still wanted him to succeed. We were on the Brooklyn Bridge when it happened. A truck swerved, tires screeched, and the world spun. Our car slammed into the guardrail, glass shattering like the lies we'd built. I woke up in the hospital, my arm in a sling, my head pounding. Jordan was there, unharmed but pale, his eyes darting like he was waiting for something to collapse. The doctor said we were lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt like I'd been holding my breath for 3 years, and the air was finally gone. The crash didn't just break our car, it broke us. In the hospital, Jordan stayed by my side, but his presence felt like a performance. He held my hand, but his grip was too tight, like he was trying to hold on to something slipping away. I didn't ask about the phone call he took in the hallway, or why he flinched when a nurse mentioned next of kin. When we got home, the apartment felt different, like the walls had absorbed our secrets. I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the truck, the glass, the moment before impact when Jordan had looked at Minute with love, but with fear. Not fear for us, but for himself. I started digging. While he was out, I checked his laptop again. Passwords had changed, but I knew him too well. His old dog's name, Rusty, still worked. What I found wasn't just a photo this time, it was an email thread. Dozens of messages between Jordan and someone named Alex, spanning months. I can't keep lying to him, Jordan had written. But I need you. Alex's replies were colder. You made your choice. Stick to it. My stomach churned. Alex wasn't just a fling, was a life Jordan was living behind my back. There were photos, too. Buried in a hidden folder, Jordan and Alex at a beach house, at a concert, at a dinner party with people I'd never met. They weren't just moments, they were a story I wasn't part of. I waited for him to come home. When he did, I didn't yell. I just showed him the laptop. The email's open. Who's Alex? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. For the first time, Jordan didn't have an answer. He just stared, his face a mix of guilt and relief, like he'd been waiting for this. Eli, I didn't mean for it to go this far. He said finally, I love you. But don't. I cut him off. Don't say it if it's not true. He didn't try to stop me as I grabbed my jacket and left. I walked for hours, the city blurring around me. I ended up at the Brooklyn Bridge, staring at the spot where we'd crashed. It felt like a metaphor for us, beautiful from a distance, but broken up close. I didn't go home that night. I stayed with Lena, who didn't ask questions, just handed me a beer and let me cry. I told her everything, 3 years of lies, of pretending, of loving someone who was never fully mine. She listened, and when I was done, she said, "You deserve someone who doesn't make you doubt yourself." Her words stuck. I'd spent so long pretending to believe Jordan that I'd forgotten what it felt like to trust myself. But the truth was out now, and there was no going back. The next week was a haze. I moved out, crashing on Lena's couch while I looked for a new place. Jordan texted, called, left voicemails that ranged from apologies to anger. "You didn't even give me a chance to explain," he said in one. I didn't reply. There was nothing left to explain. I started piecing together the truth. Alex was a lawyer in Manhattan, someone Jordan had met before me. They'd been on and off for years. A toxic cycle of breakups and reconciliations. Jordan had used me as a placeholder, a way to feel stable while he chased something he couldn't let go. I wasn't his love, I was his lie. But I wasn't blameless. I'd seen the signs and ignored them, too scared to lose the life I'd imagined with him. I'd lied to myself as much as he'd lied to me. That realization hurt more than his betrayal. I threw myself into work, picking up extra shifts at the cafe. The routine kept me grounded, but it couldn't erase the ache. I'd see couples holding hands and feel a pang, not just for Jordan, but for the version of myself I'd lost. I started journaling, spilling my anger and grief onto pages I'd never show anyone. It helped. A little. One night, I ran into Marcus, the guy from Jordan's texts, at a bar in Greenpoint. He recognized me from a photo Jordan had shown him. "You're Eli?" "Right," he said, his voice kind but cautious. I nodded, bracing myself. He told me he'd been Jordan's friend for years, that he'd warned him to come clean. "He's a mess, but he cared about you," Marcus said. "He just didn't know how to do it right." I wanted to hate Jordan, but all I felt was pity. He was trapped in his own lies, too. I thanked Marcus and left, feeling lighter, like I'd let go of something heavy. I started rebuilding. I found a studio in Bed-Stuy, small but mine. I hung new art on the walls, pieces I'd bought from local artists. I went to therapy, something I'd always put off. The sessions were hard, but they helped me see that loving Jordan wasn't a mistake, just a lesson. 6 months later, I was different. Not whole, but healing. I'd started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. My canvases were messy, full of color and chaos, but they felt honest. I was learning to trust my own voice, to stop pretending for anyone else. I saw Jordan one last time, at a gallery in Dumbo. He was showing new work, photos that were raw and unguarded in a way his old stuff never was. I almost didn't go, but Lena convinced me. "Closure's not for him," she said. "It's for you." He looked tired, older, but his smile was the same. We talked, not as lovers, but as strangers who'd once known each other too well. He told me he'd ended things with Alex, that he was trying to be better. "I'm sorry, Eli," he said, and for the first time, I believed him. I didn't need his apology anymore, but it felt good to hear it. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said, and I meant it. I walked away, the weight of 3 years lifting with each step. The city felt alive again, full of possibility, not pain. I didn't fall in love again right away, but I started noticing things as strangers laugh in a coffee shop, the way the light hit the Hudson at dusk. I was enough, just as I was. The crash had exposed our lies, but it also showed me the truth. Love doesn't have to hurt. It can be honest, messy, real. One evening, I sat on that same Brooklyn Park bench where Jordan and I had once shared a quiet moment. I wasn't waiting for him anymore. I was waiting for myself. And for the first time in years, I felt like I was finally showing up.